Growth doesn't feel like growth. Not at first. It feels like something wrong. Think about the last time you had an unexpected stretch of success. Maybe you closed 3 deals in a week when you normally close one. Maybe you landed a client way bigger than your usual. Maybe your numbers jumped and suddenly you were outperforming people who'd been ahead of you for years. What did you feel? If you're honest, it probably wasn't pure excitement. There was something else mixed in, a tightness in your chest, a voice in your head saying, "This can't last." A strange urge to slow down, even when everything was working. That's the thermostat. Not as a concept, as an experience. I knew a guy back in Australia who sold consulting packages to small businesses. High ticket stuff. $5,000, $10,000 per engagement. He'd been grinding for years at the lower end, selling smaller packages, building his reputation, paying his dues. His comfort zone was around $2,000 a deal. That's what felt normal. That's what felt like him. Then one month, something shifted. He landed 3 big clients in a row. Not his usual deals. These were $15,000 contracts each. More money in 30 days than he'd made in the previous 6 months combined. And instead of celebrating, instead of feeling like he finally made it, he started unraveling. He told me later what it was like. He couldn't sleep, kept waking up at 3 in the morning with his heart racing. Not from excitement, from dread. He was convinced the clients would figure out he wasn't worth the money. Every email he sent, he second guessed. Every call, he overthought. He started imagining worst case scenarios. What if they ask for a refund? What if they tell other people I'm a fraud? What if this whole thing falls apart? The success wasn't making him confident, it was making him terrified. And then he did something that still blows my mind. He refunded one of the clients, gave the money back, $15,000, just handed it over and walked away from the contract. When I asked him why, he said, "I just wasn't ready for that level yet." But that wasn't the real reason. The real reason was his thermostat. His self concept said he was a $2,000 guy. And when reality jumped too far past that picture, his subconscious couldn't handle the gap. So it found a way to close it. He literally paid money to return to his comfort zone. Now, you might hear that and think, I'd never do that. And maybe you wouldn't refund a client. But the mechanisms show up in subtler ways all the time. And once you know what to look for, you'll start seeing it everywhere. In yourself, in your teammates, in people you've watched flame out after a hot streak. Here's what the gap actually feels like. When you start operating above that internal set point, your brain interprets it as danger, not consciously, subconsciously. The unfamiliar registers as unsafe, even if the unfamiliar is success, even if the unfamiliar is exactly what you've been working towards. Your nervous system doesn't care about your goals. It cares about keeping you alive. And alive means familiar. So it starts sending signals. The first signal is usually physical: tightness in your chest, shallow breathing, trouble sleeping, a low-grade anxiety that doesn't seem connected to anything specific. You might wake up at 2 in the morning with your mind racing, not about problems, about possibilities, about what happens if this keeps going, about what it means if you actually become the person who earns this much. The second signal is mental. Imposter syndrome kicks in hard. You start waiting to be found out. Every compliment feels suspicious. Every win feels like a fluke. You tell yourself it's just a good month, just lucky timing, just the right lead falling into place. You refuse to own the success because owning it would mean updating your identity. And your subconscious doesn't want to update. It wants to stay exactly where it is. The third signal is behavioral. This is where the self-sabotage gets creative. You start making decisions that don't make sense, spending money you shouldn't spend, picking fights with people who support you, missing followed up you'd normally never miss, taking days off when you're on a roll, finding reasons to slow down right when you should be accelerating. And the crazy thing is, you'll have perfectly logical explanations for all of it. I was tired. I needed a break. Something came up. But underneath those explanations, the thermostat is doing its job, cooling you back down, returning you to baseline, keeping you safe in the familiar. I felt this myself. After a particularly strong stretch in New Zealand, I noticed something strange happening. The numbers were good. The team was performing. Everything I'd been building was finally clicking. And instead of feeling proud, I felt exposed. Like I'd accidentally wandered into a room I didn't belong in. Like someone was going to tap me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, there's been a mistake. You're not supposed to be here." I started doing little things like sabotaging myself. Not big dramatic things, subtle things. Taking an extra day off here and there. Avoiding the accounts, not following up on opportunities I would have jumped on 6 months earlier. I wasn't burned out. I wasn't tired. I was uncomfortable with the success. And my subconscious was trying to fix that discomfort the only way it knew how, by bringing me back down. So what do you do about it? How do you break through when your own mind is working against you? The answer isn't to fight it. You can't willpower your way past your subconscious. It's too fast. It's too automatic, too deeply wired. The answer is to reprogram it gradually, deliberately, systematically. Here's what actually works. First, you have to expect the discomfort. This is huge. Most people hit success, feel terrible, and assume something's wrong. They think, if this were right for me, I'd feel good about it. But that's not how growth works. Growth feels uncomfortable by definition. If it felt comfortable, it wouldn't be growth. It would be maintenance. So when you start exceeding your thermostat, your anxiety kicks in. When you can't sleep, when you feel like a fraud, when part of what you want to slows down, recognize it for what it is. It's not a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that something's working. Your discomfort is evidence of expansion. Expect it. Welcome it. Keep moving anyway. Second, you have to normalize the new level before you live it. This is where visualization becomes tactical, not mystical. Your subconscious can't tell the difference between a real memory and a vividly imaged experience. This isn't woo-woo. This is neuroscience. When you imagine something with enough detail, enough sensory richness, enough emotional engagement, your brain processes it in the same way it processes actual experience. So you can use this to your advantage. Before you hit the new level in reality, you rehearse it in your mind over and over until it stops feeling foreign, until it starts feeling like something you've already done. Here's the practice. Every morning, before you start your day, close your eyes for 5 minutes. Picture yourself operating at the next level, not the fantasy level, not the wouldn't it be nice level, the next realistic step. See yourself closing the bigger deals, handling the larger accounts, earning the higher income. But don't just see it, feel it. What does it feel like in your body when you are that person? How do you carry yourself? How do you speak? How do you respond when someone asks what you do? Make it vivid, make it specific, make it real enough that your nervous system starts to accept it as familiar. Third, you have to close the gap between who you are and who you're becoming, one day at a time. This is where affirmation comes in, but not the kind where you stand in front of a mirror and shout things you don't believe. That doesn't work. Your subconscious rejects statements that are too far from your current reality. If you're making 40,000 and you tell yourself, "I'm a millionaire," your brain just rolls its eyes. The affirmation has to be close enough to be believable, stretching but not breaking. So instead of "I'm a millionaire," you say, "I'm the kind of person who earns the next level amount. This is who I'm becoming. Instead of, I am the best salesperson in the world, you say, I am someone who gets better every single day. My skills are growing. My confidence is building. The affirmation has to feel like a slight reach, like you're stretching towards something real, not lying to yourself, growing into yourself. Fourth, and this is one of the step most people skip. You have to act before you feel ready. The thermostat resets through action, not just thought. You can visualize all day. You can affirm until you're blue in the face. But if you don't start behaving like the person you're becoming, nothing changes. So you have to ask yourself, what would the next level version of me do today? Would they make the call I've been avoiding? Would they follow up on that lead I've been sitting on? Would they show up earlier, stay later, prepare more thoroughly? And then you do it. Not because you feel ready, because action creates feeling, not the other way around. You act your way into a new identity. You behave your way into a new thermostat setting. The confidence comes after. Here's what I want you to take from this. The thermostat is real. You've felt it. You've probably sabotaged yourself because of it, maybe without even knowing. But it's not permanent. It's not fixed. It's just a setting. And settings can be changed, not overnight, not by accident, but deliberately through awareness, through visualization, through affirmation, through action. You can expand who you believe you are. And when you do, your results will follow, not because the market changed, because you did. But here's what nobody tells you. Even when you start resetting the thermostat, even when you're doing the work to expand your identity, there's another force working against you. Something that limits how many calls you make, how many conversations you have, how many opportunities you even give yourself. It's running in the background of every sales day you've ever worked. And until you address it, no amount of visualization or affirmation will matter, because you won't take enough action for any of it to pay off. I'm talking about the two fears, the fear of rejection and the fear of failure. Let's talk about what they're really doing to your career and how to finally release them. Hey, thanks for checking out this clip from the Sales Evolution Lab podcast. If you found value in this lesson, be sure to hit subscribe to evolve for the future of selling. And if you want the full breakdown, the deeper stories, the practical toolkit, check out the full episode of the Sales Evolution Lab podcast. Just click the video on the screen, and I'll see you there.